So if you guys didn't see my last macaron video, I will link that down below. This one was way more of a disaster than the last one. So yeah, go check that one out. Once you see this one, I think you'll agree that this one was way more of a disaster than my last one. I am not a macaron connoisseur when it comes to baking by any means. I have made them only a handful of times, and I can't even remember the last time that I actually made a macaron. It was probably before I got married, which was 13 years ago this year. So that tells you something. I'm a bit out of practice for sure. So I will link the recipe down below. I know it is a good recipe. I only like to link recipes that I know actually work, and I'm sure this is a good recipe. This is just definitely user error and not having made macarons in such a long time. I'm just out of practice with it. So with macarons, you have to be very careful when folding in the batter, or folding in the almond flour and all that stuff into the whipped egg whites, because you don't want to deflate the air. And that's exactly, I think, what I did with this one. The first recipe that I did, or not recipe, but the first batch that I made, I think that I over whipped it because I had the mixer on too high of a speed. And I also did not mix it quite well enough once I incorporated everything. So you will see here later what kind of a disaster I ended up with. Let's just say I didn't even get actual cookies out of it. So you'll see later what happened. But basically, pretty much all macaron recipes are like standard, with sifting the almond flour and the powdered sugar, and then beating the egg whites, and then delicately folding in the almond powder mixture into your egg whites without deflating all of the air that you just whipped into the egg whites. So here I whipped it perfectly. I think part of the other problem is I only made the recipe one batch, or one times the recipe. And as you can see, this bowl is huge. And I think part of the problem was the bowl was too tall, but not wide enough for me to mix. It was hard for me to get my hand down in there to mix it properly. So I think that's part of the problem that I had with this recipe, is just folding it in and making sure that I did not deflate the egg whites, which I believe is what happened with this recipe. Because you'll see later when I'm trying to pipe it out onto my sheet tray that it's just a soggy mess, sort of. So that's just one thing you want to be very careful of. And also, as you can see here, I am adding my almond flour and powdered sugar in additions, because you don't want to add the whole thing at one time. And also, I double sifted. As you saw in the beginning, I sifted, and then I'm double sifting here to make sure that there's no lumps and clumps in the almond flour and powdered sugar mixture. That's another thing that can mess up your macaron batter. So you want to add in additions, because if you add the whole thing all at once, that will definitely deflate all of the air that you just created in your macaron batter. So you definitely want to do that. You want to sift twice. I always sift once before I add it, and then once when I'm adding it into the macaron batter, so that I am double protected, that it is hopefully a smoother batter. And anything that doesn't get sifted, I try not to smush it through too much. You saw me do that earlier, but that was because I had a lot in there and it wasn't going through fast enough. But anything that's left at the bottom that's still kind of thick and crummy, I just discard that and toss it, because, like I said, you want a smooth batter. So here I am whipping the another egg white, I should say, not the egg whites. Because once I realized that my batter was deflated, I thought that maybe by adding another egg white to it, that it would help kind of inflate it, so to speak, again. And I don't think that really worked. So this is something that I definitely need some practice on. If you guys have any tips and tricks, any macaron connoisseurs out there, or that, any pros, let me know down below, because again, it's one of those things, it's like such a simple process, but it's so easy to screw it up. And I've so far done that twice. And I used to make macarons long time ago and they came out really good. But you see here, it's just a soppy mess and it's horrible. I'm putting it in the piping bag and it's just like, it shouldn't be kind of dripping all over the place. And I even have my special baking mat here for macarons. And you can see as I'm doing it, it's spreading out like pancakes into each other almost. So at some point here, I don't know about how far along, I just decided I'm looking here going, oh, what am I going to do with this? I don't know. So I added more and I just kept going. I think at this point, I just spread the whole thing like, yes, there it goes, like a cake batter. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to make a whole half sheet out of this and do something else with it. And these cookies were intended to be in a Valentine's Day basket, a treat basket that I was going to make with a variety of treats in it. But I scratched that idea because this was giving me just too much of a headache. And I thought, I'm not going to mess with this anymore. So you're going to see the end result here in just a minute. They tasted absolutely amazing still, but they look like crap and definitely were not cookie worthy.